What's up developers, it's Dari here and welcome back to a new video where we're going to implement a posters through our database on a project I did a while ago where I created a blog. I recently started using my GitHub more and more and I was thinking about adding a repository for every video I create with a users section at the bottom, which will basically show you how the code works in text. If you are interested in this, let me know in the comment section down below so I can continue on creating this type of content. I've got my Laravel blog repository open, which I have linked in the description down below, and I want to clone the project, set up the database, and add a text search functionality to it. If we click on the code call to action button in the top, we'll be prompted with a pop-up where you can clone this project, and let's do that through SSH. Let's click on the icon that we have right here to copy the link, navigate to the CLI, and I want to store my project into my workspace folder. So what we can do right here is to perform a git clone and paste the link that we just copied. If we hit enter, it will clone the repository, and what we can do then is to perform a cd to change directories into our Laravel -8 and hit tab blog. There are a couple steps that we need to perform before we can run the project in the browser. Since I'm not publishing my .env file to GitHub, we have to clone it from the .env.example file. So let's perform a cp space .env hit tab for the .example file, and let's clone it to a file called .env. Hit enter. We also need to make sure that we perform composer install to pull in the vendor directory. This might take a second because the file might be a little bit big. Alright, and the last step is to generate an app key. So let's perform php artisan key :generate. Hit enter. And our application key has been set successfully as well. I think that we're ready to serve our project in the browser. So let's perform the php artisan serve command. This will pull up our localhost IP. So let's copy it and let's navigate to the browser. Let's open a new tab and paste it right there. As you can see, our project has been opened in the browser. We've got a home page, blog page, login page, and register page. But in order to interact with the pages I've just mentioned, we got to make sure that we have our database set up and our migrations as well. So first of all, we need to start off with our database credentials. Remember, we just cloned the .env.example file, so our file isn't actually set up. If we navigate to the code editor, I've got Visual Studio Code open. I need to open the folder. It's on my desktop, workspace, and it's called Laravel 8 blog. Alright, let's open the .env file in the root of our directory. And right here, you can see that my database connection is alright, the host is okay, the port is okay. The database name is called Laravel blog, the username is root, and I've got a password called Dari1234. If we save it and close off the file, we can navigate to the terminal. Well, let's actually go back to Visual Studio Code and let me open the integrated terminal. Now inside our terminal, let's perform the MySQL command. Inside the MySQL tab that we got open right here, let's perform a create database called Laravel blog. Hit enter. Alright, the query has been performed. So let's perform an exit. Now this project also has a couple migrations that we need to migrate right now. So let's run php artisan migrate. You can see that the users table, passwords, resets, the failed jobs, and the post tables have been migrated. So we should be able to register an account and to create a new post. Let's navigate to the browser, click on register. Let's give it a name of code with Dari. Let's give it an email of test@gmail.com and let's add a password. Let's confirm it as well. Now if we click on register, you can see that we have been logged in. Let's click on blog. Now we have the opportunity to create a post because we're logged in. So let's do that. Let's call it post 1. The description of post 1 as well. We can select a file, so let's do that as well. I've got an image open on my desktop and it's a lake because I'm actually going on a holiday. Let me close this thing off. Let's submit the post and our post has been added. Today's video is brought to you by Cloudways, a managed hosting platform for your applications. Cloudways has enabled businesses to scale and reach new milestones instead of worrying about server hassles. With reliable 24/7 support, Cloudways offers complete peace of mind from server-level nightmares. Furthermore, its superior tools and works enhance your productivity so you can focus on creating incredible experiences with your applications. It's a fast managed solution for agencies, SMBs and e-commerce businesses. What I personally like about Cloudways is their slogan, moving dreams forward. Right now, it's time to focus on a tool that we're going to use called Laravel Scout. You can bring in a package through Composer which will add full text search to your eloquent models. Now you might wonder why we're going to use Laravel Scout instead of writing the code ourselves, but Laravel Scout is known for its simplicity. With Laravel Scout, you also have to set up Algolia driver, which is an API tool that will deliver real-time results from your requests. And it's actually very easy to make use of Laravel Scout. We need to navigate to the terminal, so inside Visual Studio Code. We need to make sure that we run the composer, require, and what we're going to require is Laravel/Scout. If we hit enter, it will pull in all the necessary packages for us. And this package also created a configuration file which we can't access immediately. What we need to do is to publish it from the vendor through artisan. Now that can be done by running the php artisan vendor :publish space -- provider is equal to Laravel /scout service provider. If we run the command, you can see that files have been copied and the publish has been completed. So what we can do is to open the config folder. And right here, you can see a new file called scout.php. Like I've said, we're going to use Algolia to interact with our search client, which will basically do the searching for us. Now we do need to pull it in through Composer as well. So let's perform another command. Let's say composer require Algolia /Algolia search -client -php. Let's hit enter. Before we can use Algolia, we do need to create an account on their official website. Don't worry, it has a 14 days trial where you can test it out. Even after the 14 days, you pay around $1 per 1000 search queries, which is a reasonable price. If we open the scout.php file right now, and let's make our terminal a little bit smaller. Alright. Now this is something I actually recommend you to always do whenever you pull something in through Composer. Just go over the scout.php file to see what's even in here. If we just have a quick look at it right here, you can see that it's calling the .env file just to see if there is a variable. Otherwise, it just has an empty value. In my head, an alarm goes off telling me that I somehow need to find API keys somewhere. And obviously, this can be done through their own website. If we navigate to the browser and open a new tab, and let's navigate to algolia.com. You will see a Start Free button in the top right menu right here. Let's click on it. Right here, you can see that you don't need a credit card to test this out. Your build search will be done in less than 1 hour and you can use all premium features when you have a trial. What I want you to do is to pause the video, register an account, and I will see you back on Algolia's dashboard. Whenever you're logged in, you'll be redirected to the admin panel of Algolia. You will see a lot of settings of your search queries right here, which actually isn't something that we will cover. What I want to cover is the API section right here inside the left panel. So let's click on it. What we need to do is to basically create 2 new environment variables inside the .env file with the application ID and let me show the other one, the Algolia secret key. So what we can do is to copy our application ID, navigate back to Visual Studio Code, open the .env file, and let's scroll to the bottom and let's create 2 new variables right here. In capitals, we're going to call it Algolia_app_ID, and we're going to set it equal to a set of double quotes. Inside the double quotes, we're going to paste what we just copied. Now, if we navigate back to Brave, we need to make sure that we copy the admin API key. Now, the reason why is because this key is used to create, update, and delete rows. And what we're basically going to do is to create a new post, send it back to Algolia, which will create a new item for us. Let's copy it. Let's navigate back to Visual Studio Code. Right below our Algolia underscore app underscore ID, let's create a Algolia underscore secret. Let's set it equal to a set of double quotes, and let's paste in the secret ID that we just copied. All the variables that we have right here have different meanings. If you want to do something else, or you want to extend your search API, be aware that you might need to have new variables inside your .env file. The next step is to make sure that we mark our model for indexing. This can be done through the searchable trait that we need to add inside the desired model. If we navigate to Visual Studio Code, we know that the desired model for us will be the post model because we're going to search through posts. So what we can do is to navigate to the top, open the app folder, models folder, and we have a post.php file. Now you can see that we're already using the has factory and the sluggable trait. We need to add one more, which will be the searchable. I don't know why I have them on separate lines, so let's actually separate them with a comma. And right after sluggable, let's add a comma. And let's pull in the searchable. Right here, you can see the option, so let's also pull in the class right here. Be aware that there are a couple methods that you can implement to change up your search function. Now there are tons of them and I can't cover them all, so let me show you which one we have. If we scroll down and open the vendor folder, scroll down to the Laravel folder, the Scout folder, and the source folder. Right here, you can see a searchable.php file, or better say, a trait. In here, you find loads of methods that you can define. To do that, you need to define the function inside the model and do something inside of it. Now the list is super long, which makes no sense to cover them all because most of the time you'll be using the standard ones. Now let's close off this file and let's go back to our post model. With Scout, you have the opportunity to create, delete, and update events on the desired model, and Scout will then sync them to change the values in Algolia. It's optional to define the following method inside your model, but I prefer to do it. So right above our public function user, let's create a public function searchable as. And we're going to return a string right here called posts, which will be the table that we have in our database. Now you can create a separate model inside a post controller which will perform the search query, but I think it's way better to create a separate controller that will do most of the work that is related to searching. So we need to make sure that we have a new controller. Inside the CLI, let's perform the PHP artisan make controller called search controller. Hit enter. Let's open it inside the HTTP folder, controllers folder, and the search controller. Let's remove the comment and let's create a new public function called query. Now here comes the fun part, because we obviously need to create something inside our front end that will pass in a string that we need to pass inside our query, which will then search through our database. So let's open the resources folder right at the bottom. Let me close off the vendor folder actually. Let's open the views folder, the block folder where we have the index.blade.php file, which will basically be, let me show it to you, this page. What we want to do is to add a search bar right here with a submit button where we pass in a name, which will then be queried through our database. If we navigate back and go right below the session has a message check, let's create a new div right here. Now this project is created with HTML and Tailwind, so what we can do is to give it a class of, let's say, pt-15, to give it a padding top of 15. Let's give it a width, so width-4/5 of 80%. We also need to align everything in the center, so what we want to have is 10% to the left, 10% to the right. That can be done by adding a class of m-auto. We're going to add a form inside our div because we're basically going to request a form. So let's say form, hit tab. The action will be /search/query. We also need to pass in a method of, let's say, get. The reason why we're using a get method is that we're going to get data that matches the input fields from the database. Now make sure that you add your cross-site request forgery token right here, right below our form. So let's say add CSRF. We need one input field. So let's write down input and hit tab. And let me actually outline this on the line below, which makes it a little bit easier to read for you. So right below our type, we have a name, let's say search. Next to the name, we have a placeholder, let's say search ... And we have a class. Let's define a padding left of 4 and a padding right of 10. The padding y-axis is 3. The loading is none. And the rounded are LG. Let's give it a shadow of, let's say, SM. On focus, I want the outline to be none. And on another focus, I want the shadow to be outline. Let's also change the text color. Let's say text-gray-600 and the font is medium. Right below our input field, we do need to have a button as well because we're going to submit it. Let's give the button a type on the line below of submit. Let's give it a class of bg-green-500. The text will be uppercase. The background will be transparent. The text is gray-100. Text is extra small and the font is extra bold. That's a typo. And let's add a padding y-axis of 3 and the x-axis is 5. The last class will be the rounded 3XL. Inside our button, let's add a piece of text of search. If we save it and navigate back to the browser, refresh it, you can see that we have an input field right here with a button which says search. This obviously does not work yet because we need to make sure that we do something with the endpoint that we have inside our form, which will be /search/query. If we open the routes folder, I lost it right here, and the web.php file, you can see that we have a couple routes defined. Right below our route : get to the home page, let's define a new one. Let's say route : get. The first param will be the URI, which will be /search/query. Outside of our URI, let's add a comma brackets. And inside the brackets, we're going to pass in the controller. So let's say search controller. Don't forget to pull it in. Add a double colon of class. And let's say that we want to call the method which is called query. Let's save it. Let's open the search controller and let's just return a piece of text right here of test. If we save it, navigate to the browser. Let's search for, let's say, test, search. And right here, test has been printed out because our function is returning test. Now the next step is to create the actual search page. We're going to create a complete new view. So if we open our resources folder, we're going to create a new folder right here called search. And inside the search folder, we're going to create a new file called index.blade.php. In here, we're basically going to copy paste the index page of our blog folder. So let's do that. Let's open the index page, copy the page, close it off, paste it right here. And we're only going to replace the piece of text that we have right here. Instead of saying blog posts, we're going to say search blog posts. And that was it. Very simple. We're not going to change anything else right here because we're going to pass in the same array called posts that we've been using, let's say, I lost it, right here. This will save us a lot of headaches because we don't need to change up other values inside our index page. If we save it and close it off, now let's return a view to single quotes search : index. Save it, navigate back, refresh it. Inside the search input field, let's say test again. Let's search. And our view has not been found, so something must be... Oh, I already see it. I did not create the search folder inside the views folder. So let's drag it in there. Let's move it. Navigate to Brave, refresh the page, and undefined variable post, which is alright because we're not passing in a variable post at the moment. So let's navigate back to work on the query method. Since we're working with a request from the front end, we got to make sure that we pass in the request object as a param. So right here, let's say request, variable, or object, request. Then inside the method, we need to perform an if statement to see if the input field has been submitted. So as a condition, we can see if the variable request chain a method called has a key of search. And the key search will refer to the, let me open the view, right here, the input field with the name of search. If it has, we're going to do something inside the if statement. We're going to create a new variable called posts, which is equal to the post method. So let's pull it in, colon, we're going to perform a search query. Inside the search query, we're going to see or say that it needs to search for the request search variable. Now we need to chain one more method called get. So we're going to get all values. Let's also create an else statement, because if there is no post with that name, we're going to tell our application to just return all posts. So let's say variable posts is equal to post, colon, get. Now eventually we need to make sure that we send back our variable post, either the if statement or the else statement, back to the view. So right after our string of our index, let's add a comma, brackets, hit enter. We're going to pass in a key of posts, and the value will be variable post. Let's save it. If we navigate to Brave, refresh the page. All right, let's click on blog. Let's actually create a new post first with a title of post number 2, description of post 2, select the file again, click on submit. All right, our post has been created. Try to search for that post. Let's say post 2, click on search. And as you can see, we have been redirected to search blog post, and we can only see our post number 2. Remember that I said that we need to create a blog post at the beginning of the tutorial. Let's try to search for it. Let's search for post 1. Click on search. And as you can see, the record does not exist even though we have added a post ourselves. Now by default, the existing records in a database will not be imported into Algolia. Only records that we created after we started using Algolia will be imported. Obviously, there is a command to import old posts as well. We need to navigate to the CLI. And right here, we need to perform the following command. Let's say php artisan scout :import. And then in double quotes, we need to pass in the entire path from the model you want to import. In our case, it will be app/models/post. Hit enter. And with one command, we imported all existing posts into Algolia and they are searchable. So let's test it out one more time. Inside the search bar, let's say post 1, search, and you can see that post 1 has been found. This was it for this video on how we added a simple search bar in Laravel Vue. You can make this as complex as you want, and you can even implement React or Vue to it, where you have the opportunity to see posts whenever a user types. If you do like my content and you want to see more, leave this video a thumbs up, and if you're new to this channel, please hit the subscribe button.